The SMU Mustangs are off to a 2-1 start here in the 2024 campaign. They snuck by Jeff Choate and the Nevada Wolfpack in Reno, took care of business against Houston Christian, lost a tough one, their Big 12 opener against BYU. Oh, they got a good one coming up here. They will be, what is that, the Battle of the Iron Skillet? I think we got coming up here SMU and TCU. Joining us right now, a guy who is heavily featured in a story on ESPN.com. Oh, bleep, here come all the billionaires, which I do believe was his quote. But we are pleased to be joined right now by the geologist and founder of Armstrong Oil and Gas. Bill Armstrong is with us on the show. Mr. Armstrong, how are you? Welcome to the program.
I'm awesome, Nate. And Andy, geez, I can't believe it. Look at you guys.
There we are, man. And look at you, sir. You have saved a college football program. You have turned your alma mater back into a national powerhouse as it was at one time. And then, as we know, things kind of went a little bit south there for SMU. As in they were non-existent for a while. They overcame the death penalty. They came back, but not a lot of winning was going on. As we sit here today, Bill, SMU is in the ACC, not taking television money, but in the ACC, and they're winning. They won 11 games last year, off to a 2-1 start so far this year. It kind of started with Sonny Dykes, but it continues on now. And you're a large part of that, as I think you're the chief benefactor of the program there at SMU football. So I guess we'll start here. As somebody with, I'm not trying to be rude, sir, but somebody with deep pockets, why did you want to put so much of your largesse into SMU football and helping that whole thing rebuild?
Oh, Nate, hey, thanks for that introduction. I'm not sure I deserve all that. And I'm not the biggest benefactor of SMU. It
Okay.
actually is. It's a guy named Gary Weber. We built a new end zone complex called the Gary Weber End Zone Complex. And then David Miller, who was our, I happen to be probably third on that list, but it's still a lot. It's still a lot of dough. But we have a lot of big donors at SMU. And we've been in the desert literally since the death penalty in 1987. It was actually on my birthday, February 25th, 87. We've
Happy
been 37,
birthday.
37 years. No, it's not my birthday now, but February 25th in 87 is when we went into death penalty. And hey, before I go into SMU football, can I just say one thing? Look at Andy Lindahl there.
I know, right? Look at this guy.
I mean, think about this. He used to be a babysitter for my kids back when he was in high school. And he was a great guy back then. And
what happened to him then?
My wife and I were so broke. We were so broke back then that we knew we needed to go out each week, but we couldn't afford a movie, but we could afford a babysitter. And so we hired Andy Lindahl. And I'm so proud of him because he would sit and talk to me after what we got back from driving around, not being able to go to a movie. And he would just talk to me, and he'd be on that bike, remember that little acrobatic bike you used to drive, Andy?
And the Ninja, the motorcycle? You're talking about the motorcycle?
No, it was the little bike.
Oh, yeah, the GT. Yeah, this one. This guy. There we go.
It was the bike that you could pedal backwards and pedal forward. Then you like spin around in your seat. It was just bizarre. Anyway, he was telling me back then, he goes, Mr. Armstrong, someday I want to be in radio. And I was thinking to myself, well, someday I want to be a porn star, but I just don't have the equipment, so this is not going to happen. Anyway, I'm so proud of you, man. Here you are on drive time and just living the dream.
Yeah, I never thought we'd get that quote out of you. We'll see if
go.
that one lives on the radio for a while. No, okay, Bill, we want to know, seriously, why invest in a football program? Because you just talked about it. You know what it's like to have to live on the margins. It's not like life has just been cooking all the time. Why are you willing to put this kind of funding into a football program?
Well, first of all, SMU is a great school, and I went there. I grew up in Denver, and then I went to Arapahoe High School, and then I went down to school at SMU. It changed my life. I met my wife there freshman year, first class, 8 a.m. geology class. And it was just had a huge impact on our life. And I happened to be there during the Pony Express days. So it was a great time to be at SMU. There you go. We got a little Doak Walker. How about that, huh? A little bobblehead. He's
There you
working
are.
for it. But it was a great time to be at SMU. About a dozen years ago, I joined the SMU board, and I'm just a big believer in the school. I'm a big believer in Dallas, and I'm a big believer in how SMU can be a terrific institution. And I just don't think you can have what I would call a great, well-rounded education and a great, well-rounded college experience without world-class or national-class football and basketball. And you can see it. You can see it in the results of so many of the schools that just blow up. I mean, TCU just across town is a great example of it. You know, when they got Gary Patterson in there and they started winning big, their admissions and their endowment and everything just exploded. And then, of course, 2-3 years ago, they went to the national championship a couple years ago. And we're sitting here at SMU, and once we got the death penalty, and by the way, the death penalty was just something that we got over penalized for what we were doing, because everybody in those days, especially in the Southwest Conference, was paying everybody. And we just got pistol whipped for it. And they gave us the death penalty. And guys, we literally roamed through the desert for 37 freaking years. And we missed out on a lot of fun. And it was really holding the school back. And so I'm a huge believer in making SMU kind of the go-to university in the country, not only athletically, but also academically and culturally and spiritually and everything else you can talk about. And we're not going to get there without major college sports. And you know what? It is a expensive freaking game nowadays, major college sports.
And so along those lines, Bill, and again, we're talking to Bill Armstrong, CEO of Armstrong Oil and Gas, and he's one of the key benefactors for SMU football, a huge piece.
He's our oil baron.
That's
Say
right.
it. I told him that's the title.
He's the oil baron
there we
here
go.
on the show.
All right. Like the soup Nazi in Seinfeld, Bill, you're the oil baron.
We got an oil baron.
All right, hey, whatever.
But Bill, you wanted SMU football to be able to get back to that place. Okay, but here's one thing that I've always sort of wondered about with boosters, because a lot of college football programs, they have benefactors, they have donors, they have people that write big checks and doesn't do anything for their programs. Like, you still have to know what you're doing. You still have to find the right people. The money still has to be put into the right places. Like, you know, for you, when you talk about sitting on the board there at SMU, but how involved are you in that part of it of, okay, it's one thing to simply write the check, but I'd like to see this money get utilized by a college football program in a way that will have tangible results like wins on the field?
Well, Nate, first of all, that's like probably a seminar as opposed to a quick answer.
Yeah.
Because it involves a lot of things. You know, you got to put it into facilities, you got to put it into the coaching, you got to put it into the athletic department, your athletic director. It's just a whole lot of things. And it is, we knew the people that really want to bring athletics back at SMU, that when we donate the money, that it's going not into like some big slush fund for the university,
right?
Because there's always plenty of things for the university to put money in, whether it's their business school or whether it's they're always trying to build new facilities, depending upon, your various programs at the school. But we have this specifically for athletics and primarily for football and basketball, because the two revenue sports, whether you like it or love it or hate it, it's men's basketball and men's football, with men's football dominating even over men's basketball. And so since I was kind of like, quote unquote, the boss hog of the SMU football program, it kind of fell down to me to kind of get this thing motivated. And then we started this program about 5 years ago, and it's just taken up speed. Believe me, we sucked for so many years, yeah. Nate. It was unbelievable. Andy, we really did. I mean, we stunk it up. And I'm sorry for some competitive guys, like, well, a lot of us are on the board. That's just no bueno. So we needed to really find a way to get back. And you got to pony up, no pun intended. And so a lot of us did. And, we went out and got Rhett Lashley. We have Sonny Dykes, who, by the way, left us.
You'll see him this week.
We'll see him this week. That's always a fun time. I mean, we felt like we got kind of shanked by Sonny. And I get it why he left. I mean, we were in the American Athletic Conference, which is a group of 5. And what we saw, if you're really close to sports, you see the big four conferences now, what's five conferences, literally moving away from the other schools that are in the group of five and less. It's becoming the haves and the have-nots. In fact, I'm a little bit nervous that the SEC and the Big Ten are becoming the big have schools, and then even.
I mean, Bill, along those very lines, that is something that you're in the ACC, and we know the move that you guys made by going to the ACC and saying, okay, we'll fund the athletic department. We won't take television dollars. We're just trying to get a seat at the table. And again, you win 11 games last year, off to a 2-1 start. It's going well, but right now, you always have to think about mobility because the lawsuits happening right now in the ACC and Florida State and Clemson and everything else like that. Right now, how solid a footing do you feel like you guys are on? You're in a better situation, but is it solid right now in college football?
Well, there's nothing solid in college football. I mean, let's face it. I mean, with the transfer portal starting a few years back, and then now NIL, and probably it's even moving towards having players as employees of the university or some kind of collective bargaining going on. I mean, it is absolutely tumultuous in college football. And if anybody tells you they know where it's going, they're lying to you, because nobody knows where it's going. And there's probably going to be another round or two of restructuring before it's all said and done with. And is the ACC on good footing? Hell, a year ago, I would have told you the Pac-12 was on good footing. And it just fell apart like a cheap suit over about a 48-hour period. And now it's the Pac-2. I guess you know what? We need to change the Pac-12 to the All-State Conference.
It is.
They have Colorado State,
literally
San Diego State, Fresno State. I mean, it's just it's crazy. But I think the ACC is a really, really good conference. Actually, I think it's probably, I don't want to be offensive to anybody that's a CU fan because they're in the Big 12, but I do think it's the third best conference going right now with the SEC and the Big 10 and then the ACC. It's got a lot of really solid schools. I know Clemson and Florida State are making noise about getting more revenue and maybe trying to get out of the conference. I don't believe that will happen. It might. I have no insight. I have no crystal ball as far as how that's all going to sort itself out.
Well, you got to pay somebody off for that info. Come on, Bill.
You know what? I don't even think Florida State, Clemson, or even the commissioner of the ACC knows what the hell's going on with all of this, because there's just too many attorneys and who knows what's going on. It really it scares me that college football is going to a dominant dozen or so schools, and then the other 130 that used to be D1 schools are kind of getting left in the dust, because I think it's bad for the fans. I think it's bad for the players. It's bad for all of the institutions, except for the top dozen or so. And I just don't want it to go that way. And I hope it doesn't. I think it's probably going to take quite literally an act of Congress to calm things down.
All right, I'm curious because look, we talk about this all the time. I do the CU pregame. We have our side conversations. At some point, I want to get your thoughts on Prime, but not just yet. If they come to you and they ask you for a check, and Bill, I'm just asking for honest answers because I'm curious how this works. I come to you because, look, if there's going to be a buyout of a coach, and we saw the big one with Jimbo Fisher, they got to come to a guy like you and get an awfully fat check in order to make that happen. How much do you, as the guy writing the check, how much say do you then want? How much do you want to maybe get in the business as the guy that earned the money to be able to get them out of this? I'm just curious from your point of view, if I help you buy this out, you better come talk to me about a few things. Is that how it is, or do you trust the people in charge and just leave it alone once you've given them a massive amount of money?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, to be honest with you, obviously the big donors do have a say. Ultimately, it's the president of the university and the AD that has the ultimate say. And but don't believe for a moment that at Texas A&M they didn't have a bunch of donors that said, you know what, we're going to stroke a check to get rid of Jimbo, and they don't have a say. So that's just the way the real world works. Let's face it. We're not granular in this deal. they don't call you up and say, hey, we're thinking about getting a transfer that's going to cost us, X, Y, Z and NIL money. That's left to Rhett Lashley, our coach, and Andy Enfield, our new basketball coach, and the athletic director. So there's that doesn't go on. And I mean, if it did go on, it's more like a courtesy call to say, hey, we're gonna get this new top 50 recruit, and it's gonna cost us a little bit, but we don't say, well, no way, man. You don't do that. So you got to trust in your coach. You got to trust in your athletic director. Dude, it's tough. I mean, it is tough skating in major college football right now. I mean, it really is, because if you don't win, you die. I mean, think about it. I mean, the head football coach of Florida State almost goes to the national championship last year. He's now 0-3.
Yeah,
and they're talking about his head on a spike. And so it's a rough deal. I mean, it's the loyalty from the coaching staffs to the universities is not particularly high, because they know if they don't win, you're going to probably be asking for them to get replaced. And so you can see why they don't have a ton of loyalty to you, because the idea that a guy can just, skate by with a 500 record for a long time is, did you lose me there for a minute?
No, we got you.
Middle. Okay. I mean, it's just weird. The whole system now is just back assward. And, I don't know. It's
so, but Bill, when you bring up that point though, and this is what I wonder about is, somebody that is in your position, because you're right about that, and we can list the laundry list of issues with college football, and while we can all sit here, and Andy and I do it plenty on our show, is we sit here and say, okay, if college football did X, Y, and Z, then we could have a better system, and it wouldn't be the Wild West, and it wouldn't be as bizarre as it all is right now. To me, it kind of sounds like, and correct me if I'm characterizing this wrong, but your attitude is like, well, we're not going to fix everything, so within the current landscape, this is what we can do to build a winning program, and this is what I want to do to build a winning program. Like, is college football bleeped right now? Yes, we can all agree it is, and yet because of you and your friends, essentially, SMU is in a better place than they have been in decades, and so your attitude is sort of like, well, don't hate the player, hate the game.
100%. You know what? I think it's out of control, completely out of control. I think everybody agrees. It's more out of control even than the NFL. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my close friends on the SMU board is Clark Hunt, who owns the Kansas City Chiefs, and he and I talk about it. He goes, "Man, college football is way more out of control than even the NFL." And this is a non-sustainable business model moving forward. So where it's going to end, I don't know. But this is the game right now. Nate, you said it perfectly. Don't hate the player, hate the game, because that is the game right now. I don't think there's 30% of the P4 schools can afford to play at this level. Yes, your Michigans can, your Ohio States, your Alabamas, your Georgias, your Texas, Oklahoma, A&M. But that's a short list. Mm-hmm. It's a short list of people that can continue to play at this game. And there are way, way more fantastic athletes than there are just to fill, let's say, an 80-man roster on 12 teams coming out of high school. So it's almost a type of soft bigotry to get soft racism if you get right down to it. But I'm assuming this is going to get leveled out over here in the next 3 or 4 years. But as it relates to SMU, we just want to be a player in the game. We don't want to be bypassed. I know once we cut that deal with the ACC, there's a bunch of schools that called up ACC and said, hell, we'll do that. Because it's not like we're paying to get into the ACC, because we were essentially getting butkus in the American Conference anyway. So when we say that, hey, we're not going to get TV revenues for 7 or 8 years, it's not like we're paying that. We're just not getting what we didn't get before. So,
hey, Bill, real quick, I got to pause you there. We have a clock to maintain. I know you do a podcast. Can I need to ask you, are we keeping you from anything? Because I got a couple more. I think Nate has a couple more. Can we take our break? Because I got to get your thoughts on Prime, Bill. And would you be in to have Prime at your school as a donor? Because, again, he's in control of everything, and I'm curious what you think of that. Are you cool with that? We're kind of producing on the air here.
I love it. We're talking about the economics of college football, and who better to talk about it with than somebody that is a key benefactor of a Power 4 now program. Bill Armstrong. We're going to keep chatting with him a little bit. Plus, I got other questions, man. I got questions for days,
We
Bill.
could keep him for hours. We could do that
Perfect.
seminar.
So we
We
appreciate
can always
it.
do it.
All
No,
right.
Let's do it after the break.
All right, Bill, you
All right.
hang out. It's Kreckman and Lindahl. We're talking about the economics of college football. Keep it here.